Bring some good content into Sea of Thieves that's a little bit refreshing, a little bit different. And that battle pass mechanic is going to be utilized so well with Sea of Thieves. I think that's going to be one of the coolest things that 2021 brings, hands down. Just seal it away. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, what kind of objectives and missions do you think they're going to integrate into the battle pass, especially in Sea of Thieves in particular, right? Like, what are we going to be grinding? Are we going to be grinding gold hoarder turn-ins? Are we going to be grinding killing skeletons, sinking ships? I'm really curious what kind of mechanics you think they're going to end up kind of latching onto for the first iteration.
Yeah, so like the ladder was like the only thing that you could really latch onto for the emissary value, and that was hard to put a real purpose behind because you didn't feel like you got rewarded for it more than once for doing it. So once you did it, it was done. Now I feel like there's going to be a lot more potential for that added mission value and going in and doing those voyages and really getting into the Athena's rep further is something I think that they have to expand on to motivate more of the pirate legends to come back to do some of these things and really make us feel rewarded for having a lot of these things already towards max level, if not already maxed out. So expanding that a little bit, but also just really giving you that reward for those missions and that loot. Maybe not even getting the loot. The loot might not even be part of it. It may just be going out and killing that 100 skellies and doing the fort a bunch of times, because that's what they've kind of leaned into for now, is a lot of repetition. Go do this special thing a couple times, or do this normal thing that we made special with a couple little advancements, and that's it. So what is a refreshing thing that they're gonna do? I don't know. I haven't thought that far yet.
I am just generally excited that they're continuing to support the game in particular. And outside of a battle pass, I think the step I'd love to see Sea of Thieves take is providing a bit more, I don't want to say MMO elements, but it would be really cool if you could have like a pirate hideaway or something that you could customize, right? So instead of we're just dumping money into ship customizations, maybe there was like a special pirate hideaway that you and your crew could go visit, and there's vendors there, and maybe it's protected in some regard, right? Like you can't get attacked there, or maybe there's special vendors there, or maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a new rep that they add and the vendor is only available in your special pirate hideout or something. I think it'd be cool to like expound upon that side of the pirate's journey, if you will, because, you know, it's not just about being on the boat. It's like, what are you doing off the boat? And yeah, I want to hang on the pirate crib and drink some rum and lay on a hammock, you know? Like,
Yep.
How cool would that be?
Exactly. There's a I saw something floating around on Reddit over the holidays that talked about the things that they would love to see in Sea of Thieves, and some of them were kind of obscure, like a tri-shot cannon. So like they would rotate around and just like, but like that starts to unbalance the game. Some of these things start to break the currently stable-ish game that they have versus where it's been for the past couple of years. So looking at how that makes an impact, a pirate hideaway doesn't, and it's something that they could get more people interested in it, be able to invest more time in, and be able to show off some of the cool things that they may have acquired over the course of the Sea of Thievesing that they've done. Maybe it's a nice white megalodon that you post up in your little hideaway that you have if you're lucky enough to have gotten that thing.
Excuse me. You remember that Billy Bass toy that you push a button and it would flop and it would sing on the wall? Maybe we could get the white Meg version of that in the pirate hideaway just over there, except it doesn't have to sing and do songs and things. But
it needs
some
a
sort
shanty.
of like a mounted trophy to represent your various accomplishments in the game potentially. So Shrouded Ghost Meg over here.
Yeah.
Maybe one around collecting all the different tomes. Maybe one about becoming a pirate lord, right? There's just different trophies and things. It'd be cool to have like a display case almost to kind of show some of that stuff off outside of your boat.
Yep. I am pushing buttons over here. I apologize. Just
you are
clicking
pushing
things.
buttons.
I like our new transition. Okay. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, you want to do it again?
Yeah,
just to
I'm
show the people?
I'm gonna do it one more time. We'll do this pretty transition. Woo, woo. Okay, we did it twice. We got pretty new graphics.
Like
these
blinking.
awesome?
Yeah,
These things
it's
are
pretty great.
These
It's
are
great.
These are good. There's a lot more too. I haven't even integrated all of them properly into this thing yet. There's gonna be some new things that we'll probably drag out over the course of the time that we spend together over this 2021. That we're gonna kick some ass in. I think, right? That's what we're doing. We're kicking ass in 2021. We're done with 2020.
2020 is dead and gone and lives on in some regards, in some ways, but it's trying really hard to drag us back in. But we will not be dragged back in. We will not go quietly into the night. We will proceed forward into 2021 with much ass kicking. And with that, we launched the show, the first episode of Next Level Theory Crafting in 2021. It's been about 3 weeks since we've been here. It feels so good to be back. So welcome to the show. I am your host, Salty Dog, aka Mitch, joined by my co-host, as always, Mr. Kyle, aka Real Gizmo,
Howdy
over
ho.
there on my left. So today we are getting straight into the content. 2021, kicking its ass. New year, new you, new theme. Let's get into it. Before we start, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, as always, Blue Microphone, Shotcall GG, and Aver Media. Couldn't do the show without you. Thank you for your continued support. And yeah, let's make 2021 the best year ever. What do you say, Kyle?
I'm pretty dedicated. I've got myself cleaned up. I haven't been this cleaned up since. It's been a long time, Mitch. It's been way too long.
Same, bro. I haven't been this cleaned up since probably March. So
Yeah. Still need a nice haircut somewhere underneath this hat, but that's gonna wait a little bit. That's gonna wait until I can go get that done somewhere. But for now, do what I can.
Is a New Year's haircut a thing you always do? Like, as far as like setting the year off on a good foot, like, do you always kind of take a moment to like try to groom yourself and kind of mentally get going, or do you have any sort of routines that you always run into right after kind of the first of the year?
For sure, try to get back on the routine of working out. That's always something I like to do. Was lucky enough to be able to do it a little bit before the new year, even this year.
There you go.
The holidays are usually a good example of why I want to get back on the bike and the rowing machine and the treadmill and all the things to make sure that I don't put on those extra holiday pounds all the way through the rest of the year, which is hard to do sometimes, but got back on that. The work routine has been a little bit more rigid going into this new year as well. So really just enforcing the structure that I think I already had around some existing things that I like to do in my routine and just trying to keep it more rigid.
What do you mean?
So like as we got into last year and the later part of the year for sure, it started to slide a little bit. You know, sleeping a little 30 minutes here, I'll miss the workout. I can just go to that meeting instead of getting up and taking care of my morning routine that I need to, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm just gonna roll out of bed in my sweatpants anyways and go sit down for a meeting. So it got a little more relaxed in my my routine schedule than it probably could have been for me. But it is nice to get that structure back and feel like there's some discipline again to making things happen, and it's that energy that I can ride from day to day instead of kind of just being in that holiday lull.
Yeah, I hear that. I've recently started a new gig as well. Well, I guess not as well. You haven't started a new gig, so I have recently come out of the full-time looking for a job mode, and I've kind of found myself back in the working world. And kudos to me, yes. And one of the things I've noticed that is really challenging, especially being in a fully remote, fully work from home environment, is exactly what you just said. You know, you wake up, get out of bed, you're wearing your sweatpants. It's really easy to just say, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to wear my sweatpants all day, right? I'm just going to wear my gym shorts. And then it's fine for a couple days. You can stay motivated. But the next thing you know, you realize that like your sweatpants are almost like a mental cue, right? Like, oh, I'm in my sweatpants. I'm comfortable. Like, I don't, I'm lethargic. So I've noticed that in the mornings where, it's like one of the first things I have to do is like, okay, we gotta have our coffee. We gotta have our morning routine. But then it's like, put some pants on, like literally just take the sweatpants off and put some jeans on. And then, and some days it's like, take a shower, do the whole thing. But some days it's literally just about, let's get the sweats off, let's get the pants on. And then also going from sitting desk to standing desk, it's kind of like my mental work. And I've noticed just as soon as I get that standing desk up, I got my pants on, it's like, boom, we're ready to crush. And it's funny how the little things just like work like that sometimes.
One of the weird ones for me this past year was shoes. Putting shoes on increased productivity because I was less likely to curl up into the more comfortable positions when I'm lounging, normally with shoes off. So being just around the house, and when I moved, I actually have to walk outside to get to my office now. So I have to put shoes on to make sure that my feet don't get wet and things during different times of year. So shoes was an odd productivity increase for me and has continued into the new year. Different types of shoes for different activities. Mr. Rogers.
I also wear shoes. Lol. But typically it's because I'm in a standing desk, right? And I don't want to like stand on my feet because they just hurt. So I guess for me it's more of a function thing, not a mental thing. But it's funny the little tricks you have to play on yourself sometimes, right? I think that it's hard to adapt to this world of not going into an office, not having a morning commute. How do you trick yourself into those things, which are really actually kind of helpful to sort of segment your day and separate your space? And I don't know. I think we're dealing with it, right? But I'm always curious to hear what other people's strategies are, because I definitely don't have it all figured out.
Yeah, what's that really been like for you, getting back into to working and having a place to go and be and have a little bit more to answer to than just yourself, I guess?
It's been really nice in a lot of regards, right? It's nice to feel like I have purpose and meaning behind my day-to-day outside of just survival and, I got to play more ranked League of Legends, or I got to go sailing because, what else am I going to do? So it's been really good from that front to be like, have projects to occupy my brain and have things like challenges to think about and problems to solve. But what I've noticed is that in unemployed pandemic life, let's say, this is on the left side of my left hand is like 100% playing games and doing nothing and just like totally me. And then all the way over here on the right is like full-time work, no fun, all business all the time. So what I've noticed is that in pandemic world, I was kind of like floating over here, like really towards the just having fun, like just trying to take care of myself, trying to find a job, but like, just not really accountable to anything. And now that I have a new role, I found that I've actually kind of rebounded really far on the other side, and where I'm like kind of not taking that time for myself anymore. I'm diving into projects really deep. I'm staying up later and working later than I ever have before. And it's great to feel like that passion, but also I know that it's like that first sign of burnout for me is like, you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta step away. You can't just sit at the computer for 16 hours and grind on that work project, right? Just like you can't sit at the computer and play 16 hours of League every day. Like you can't go the other side, right? So I've been struggling a little bit with like trying to rein that balance back in and say, no, it's okay to clock out. Like it's okay to answer those emails tomorrow. It's okay. So there's like a little bit of that wanting to like perform early and kind of prove yourself about why they hired you to do a job, but also like taking care of yourself enough to not burn out. It's like, I think this is something I really need to pay attention to over the next few months to make sure like I am staying on top of it and just listening to like my body, because that's, you don't want to burn out. Burnout's bad.
Yeah. Does
that make sense?
I mean, I love it. I love that you've taken some things away from your previous jobs. And I know that in this industry that we have a real problem with burnout, and being able to identify early on that you are setting yourself up for those same patterns, no matter what job you're at, whether it be something for yourself, whether it be for someone that is giving you a nice paycheck, whether it be a contract work. If you're burning yourself out, you're not going to be useful to anybody at the end of the day, and that's a problem. And I know I've dealt with that myself, and just going so hard can be exciting and exhilarating, especially new, and it's an adventure. We love that as gamers more than I think anybody really realizes. We are a bit addicted to that idea of new and adventure, so we just go hard when the opportunity presents itself. And again, identifying that early marker of you want to be able to preserve some of that energy for times when it's actually necessary, not just that you can. You have to ask that question, should you?
Yeah, I'm wondering, Kyle, do you have any sort of rules in place on your side around like things like rules that you set for yourself or parameters around by which you try to protect your work-life balance?
It's been difficult for me over the past couple of years to establish good guidelines, because like a bowling alley, I feel like when the bumpers are up, you just bounce all the way down, and it's about refining the bumpers, not about removing the bumpers and being able to bowl perfect. It's about making it so you shoot the ball down this perfect thing every single time in my mind to a certain degree. So you define like what left is and what right is. And for me, when my personal life was non-existent, I put myself into my work. When my personal life was a little bit more prominent and started to become more prominent, it was hard to pull myself away from work initially. So now, having established a little bit of a balance there again, I think healthier than I ever have before, I have to make sure that that I take care of myself before some of these other things, before work and before my personal life and people around me. Because if I'm not taking care of myself first with my routine, with working out, making sure I stay up on some of my vitamins and supplements and things that make me just feel better every day, that routine is what allows me to be at my peak for the people around me and those that expect things from me. So that's what I think I've learned the most over the past couple of years of trying to figure that out, is make sure I give myself a little bit of that time. And I had it described to me very interestingly today, actually, as a pie chart. If you look at your time as a pie chart, it's always a pie chart. Never changes. Yep. You always have that circle. And it's just what you slice it up to be. And in the past, I neglected myself to make up for a lot of those things. And just etching out, it doesn't even have to be a third, 10, 20% of a day for myself to be able to do something like that is more than enough nowadays to maintain a decent spot. Some days it fluctuates, but I always think of myself as a sim with the sim emotion bars. And that whole time thing correlates really nicely with that.
I love the idea of your time as a pie chart. It's really, really useful because A, it's super true.
Yeah.
But B, it just makes sense, right? And for me, one of those things I've started accepting is that sometimes I just need a nap in the middle of the day. Like I'm just, so like waking up early to take phone calls with Europe, sometimes you're up at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, 6 in the morning, if it's like really important. So sometimes you just gotta say, yeah, you know what? 1 o'clock is nap time, and it's just blocked out in my calendar. Or it's like if I need a 20-30 minute snooze, like I'm taking it. And that plus allowing myself to kind of work later as opposed to forcing myself into a 9 to 5 box, which is arbitrary to begin with, right?
Yeah.
I think a couple of the things like that have kind of actually helped my transition as well. It's just like being comfortable with, now is nap time, or now is like exercise time. I'm going outside for an hour. That's what I'm doing for me, right?
Whatever it may be, the thing that you do for yourself, it's very important to build that into the routine more than ever. And I think we lost a lot of that from commuting and from having what was established as that routine. Even those little moments were us time when it was just alone, or if it may be listening to your music in the morning, or listening to a book on your way to work, or just chilling on your drive. Like those were all things that we lost this last year, and I don't know that many people will get them back, is the crazy reality. And I was remote before all of this, so it hasn't been too big of a change for me, but so many people are going to start to realize that if they don't structure that routine themselves, it doesn't just exist. You did it because work was dragging you out of the house originally, but you got to structure that routine for yourself. And it's hard to motivate exactly when you can just get out of bed, hop in that meeting in your sweats, and no one knows.
Yeah, the other thing in my routine that I've noticed has suffered, and maybe this is a good thing, like in the long tail grand scheme of things, is just, so in the past when I had a job that required me to drive into an office, I would, I'd go to the office, I would work, and then I'd come home at 5, 6, 7, whatever time. And then that was like my definitive, I'm done working. So I come home, cook dinner, maybe exercise, and then it's like, boom, now I can play games, right? Now I can kind of get into like my game time. And I've noticed that like my personal like game time, quote unquote, is rapidly sort of just evaporating because of that lack of being able to transition into me time versus work time, right? And so when I think about 2021 and the things I want to potentially accomplish, like I always typically have ranked goals or grind goals or game related goals, and I'm definitely going to set a couple for this year. But part of me is like, man, I just feel like I don't have the time anymore. And maybe it's just because it's like I need to shift it to a different part of my routine, and just instead of trying to do it at the end, I need to maybe capture that time in the morning or in the afternoon or something, right? Because I just noticed that part of my routine is just kind of slipping in some days, and it's like, it's good and bad, right?
Yeah, that that's the cost of having something else to pull your time away. And when you fill all of those hours that before with gaming, they start to like blur together, is how I've always felt. And they start to become a little more meaningless. Not to say that it is meaningless, but they lose the meaning that they had when they were a little bit more condensed into those impactful moments of a break between the monotony of a work week or the crazy stressful project that you were in or something like that. It has a more profound impact when you do get in there, but being able to set that time aside to step outside of just the daily structure but a weekly structure has been really helpful for me, and making sure that I have something that I can rely on to know that I'm going to be able to set some time aside to play the games that I want to play. And there's so many, it's so difficult to get that in there, and I want to play games with all of my friends, so it's hard enough to organize time with them too. But when you're trying to play games just in general, it's nice to have a night that you can set aside for the gang when you can get all together and play whatever it is that you can all play, or also set aside some time personally to play that grind game that you're looking for, that is that League of Legends. I know for you can get that serious play in there, because that's not as much of a relaxing experience, but it's still an outlet nonetheless. It's a competitive outlet where you can engage yourself in a different way, so it still gives your brain those little things, those rewards that you're looking for, and helps you get through the week.
Yeah, so do you got any goals, any gaming goals for 2021? Ranked or otherwise? It could just be maybe games you want to get through, or I don't know, like you setting any goals for yourself as far as that is concerned?
I am going to beat Cyberpunk. I haven't beat it yet. I haven't been playing a whole lot since the holiday passed, actually. I plowed through a lot of it, and now I just got to get past the last hump and beat it. So I'll do that. And I am going to hit Platinum with every TFT season. That is a for sure goal of mine. I am on the grind right now to get back into Platinum for the wrap up of this one. So it's going to be close. Gold 4 right now. Got some work to do. Got a lot of matches to play.
How much time do you have, and what's your strategic approach?
I think I got through the weekends, and I am watching for these streamers to show me how it's done and show me these big fucking builds right now, because the normal stuff is not working. The stuff that I normally go to, the resources I'm looking for some power, the builds are kind of all up in the air, and it's more about how the dice is rolled than anything it feels like right now, which is not where I like to see TFT at the end of a season, because that means it's going to be more difficult to get into Platinum.
Yeah, that's a great goal. I didn't realize that season was wrapping up so quickly. So yeah, I guess on when it's I've got 3 days to do it or a week. It's just about getting games in and making sure that you don't play. You know, if you're losing, like knowing when to walk away, I think has always been really helpful for me in my kind of ranked pushes. Right? It's like, okay, sure, you can always, next game is always an opportunity to get back on top and get right. But if you're tilted and you've lost 3 in a row, like maybe you're better off just walking away and coming back in an hour or the next day, right? That's always the balance there at the end of season rank push, I think. It's always a challenge.
For sure.
You don't want to go 3 steps backwards with 1 step forward. That's what's counterproductive.
Yes, definitely not. That is always the hardest part with TFT, is that you can have some great games and then you can just slide for weeks and weeks and weeks and just never come up from that slump. So I'm hoping I get that momentum behind me and start to really apply that strategy under the pressure and see where I am in TFT nowadays.
Yeah, I love it. I have a similar, I guess not really a similar goal. I'd love to get into Platinum in League someday, but I think this year is definitely all about trying to get gold for me in solo queue. Is my primary sort of ranked goal, if you will. And with limited time, I've actually been really thinking about this, like how am I going to do this, right? Because in previous seasons, I've just had the luxury of just being able to play games 3, 4, 5 games a day, every other day, whatever. Now it's like, well, I'm lucky if I'm mentally even fresh enough for 1 game during the week, right? So most of my playing time is occurring on the weekends, especially in like a ranked League of Legends environment where like I feel you need to be somewhat mentally there to really perform. So I'm looking at this calendar of time being much more constricted, and I think what I've really decided is that just every ranked game you need to just go in and mentally need to be there. I think is all about like controlling tilt, because I have a tendency to get tilted in League very easily. So if I can only play 2 games in a weekend, it's like, how do we just goose blah, 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 right? Just remember that /mute all is a thing, and I'm muting all every single time, because
it's not worth the tilt.
It's just worthless to talk to people in that
game. It is. It's the pings are enough. Thank you for pings. They're annoying enough when they want to be, but they are enough to convey the point that you are trying to make. And I will follow it if you're not being annoying, is normally the mentality. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to look at that and that approach. But yeah, consolidating your time, that's rough. Trying to pressure it into those moments and really perform in those moments, it's about the preparation outside of those matches now, Mitch. So what are you doing as far as that research and as far as some of that hustle and grind on the side when you aren't actually able to play League? Do you have a resource for YouTube? Do you have some websites you look at for the builds? What are the tools that you are going to help get you to gold?
So I don't profess to have all the answers on this front, right? But I typically try to watch all of your kind of standard tier list, sort of understand the meta champions, right? You get like pro guides and the other resources out there kind of do a good job of kind of producing that free content, which I feel like is enough, right? For me, it's like, okay, who are the meta junglers? Kind of what are just trying to follow, just keeping tabs on not the individual nerfs and buffs of every patch, but the broad strokes, right? They giga nerf this jungler, so don't worry about using him anymore. I like to kind of keep tabs on that. But really, I'd say that the most important thing is not necessarily the external resources for me. It's more about internally watching replays. So what I've started doing is every time I play a ranked game, I will, before I queue into the next one, I will think about one thing that went wrong or one thing that surprised me or even like a play that I really kicked ass on and I want to watch again, and I'll jump into the replay and I'll just watch that, right? So maybe one time I'll just focus on the enemy jungler's like clear path, just be like, oh, why was he there at 6 minutes? It's like, oh, it's because he started this and went that way. Got it. Or maybe it'll be something like, why did I die during that one game? Or I thought I should have, something happened. So trying to take like a focused replay watching approach. You don't sit there and watch the entire thing at 1x speed. You fast forward and you try to be intentional about it, right? I want to watch my early game. I want to watch my clear. I want to watch my team fighting. I want to watch my objective taking or my split pushing. Just trying to focus in on one thing, one replay after a game, learning something, and then getting into the next game and clearing the slate, I think is something I've started doing, which I'm noticing results, just being better game awareness too, right? Just because if you don't watch the replays, like you're just left with your own perceptions of what happened.
Yeah, and those perceptions can be very misconstrued at times in League of Legends, can't they? It's very easy for that to happen of, oh, I warded here. How did they get her? Oh, well, my ward placement was off by just a little bit, and they were able to escape by in this perfect little shadow, and look at that. I messed up.
But I think this is true for any game, right? This is not just about League of Legends. Or every competitive game has its equivalent. I mean, CS:GO, it's like, oh, well, my smoke was perfect. Well, no, it wasn't. You missed this entire angle, right? Your butt was hanging out when you were playing the bomb. Of course, he shot you, right? Rocket League, it's like, oh, well, why didn't my team rotate? It's like, well, because you cut them off. You went for a ball you weren't supposed to. So every game has this example. I think for me, when I think about getting better and climbing a ladder and setting a goal, you have to watch replays. You have to watch your own games. You have to be critical of yourself. You're not going to get better unless you do. Yeah,
being critical for sure, and reinforcing it is a big part of that. And one of the silly things that I like to do, and it always comes around the new year, is I do push-ups when I die.
Yeah.
So like every death, do a little bit of physical activity in between while I think about my mistakes and why I'm down here on the ground doing push-ups. Some old track, I think, reinforced that in my brain in high school. Punishment via physical physical work, I think, was what our
I kind
coach
of
called
love
it.
that, except it's one of the things I've struggled to really commit to. I'll do it for a couple days and then I'll just forget. Like, hey, I don't know.
It's really easy to forget between games, especially when you just get in like that Q mode. But I think one of the things that you're describing there is the moment of reflection is very important, to be able to set aside for a second and say, like, all right, I won, I lost, whatever it is. What did I do that I thought was good? And if you can say one thing that you thought was good about what you did, I think that's helpful towards reinforcing that habit. And if you can say one thing that you didn't like that you did, next time when you go to do it, you'll be like, ah, damn it, I did it again. But you're going to catch yourself that you did it, and that's a step towards the right direction. And you have to start reinforcing those little things with those micro goals, micro victories that we have every day. And I think that's an important part of trying to make some of these new habits that we want to bring into 2021 and drop some of the old things that we don't like about who we were in 2020 and continuing forward, that we want to start to refine. And that, I think that's something that's very often underrepresented, is like those micro goals, is the micro steps that we take to, or the baby steps, as one of my favorite movies puts it, towards achieving something. And something as silly as just thinking about it and catching yourself and reinforcing it that way, to where eventually you're not going to have that habit anymore, and you're going to stop doing that silly thing that gets you killed in the bush every single time that you're down there in bot lane trying to gank.
It's funny the parallels between getting good at a video game and just life in general, right? Like you just mentioned, the little things you do to make sure you don't get ganked in that bush, right? Like, okay, I don't want to just face check this bush. Like, I need to put vision, or you don't just wander into a place on the map and you don't know where people are, right? And then you think about your normal day-to-day life. It's like, well, how do I get fit? Well, maybe you just start by going outside every day, right? Micro baby steps.
Yep.
And you work your way up. You work your way up from there. I love the idea of baby steps. It's very key.
Yeah, it's Bill Murray in.
Is it called Baby Steps?
No, it's not called Baby Steps. This is What About Bob? And it's the advice that he's given by his psychiatrist, is that he needs to take baby steps to be able to overcome some of the fears that he has. He's like a total agoraphobe. He doesn't want to go outside, doesn't want to do anything, so he tries to get him to go to the elevator. He's like, baby steps to the elevator. And he takes that mentality to heart in a lot of different ways, and he starts doing lots of baby steps, and he achieves so many great things. It's silly how powerful of a concept a comedic theme was able to offer.
What about Bob?
What about Bob?
Never seen it. Maybe I should watch it.
Glorious Bill Murray movie.
Yeah, other goal for 2021, obliterate my movie backlog.
Ooh, man. How are you going to have time to get to gold and go through the movie backlog?
No, Kyle, I don't know.
Because there's so many good shows that are all flowing out as well that you can't keep up on, and we just like wrapped up a bunch of great shows that I'm still like, holy shit, I could watch those again and be completely content. So
well, and there's something else that might come back in 2021 too, Kyle, and that's events. Just imagine.
You mean car concerts?
Yeah.
The future of events is here, Mitch.
No, Kyle. Where I was going, you can talk about car concerts in a sec, but where I was going with that is just, where we're spending your time, right? So you're working, you're playing games, you're watching Netflix, and pretty soon events are going to be a thing that we get to do again, hopefully. I think you saw the news about PAX and what they announced today, or was that this week? I actually don't know when this announcement happened.
Yeah, it actually came out from ReedPop, if I remember correctly, and they're talking about kind of reinforcing the commitment to the community, even though we don't have these physical events in the traditional sense. They're still going to try and bring back as much as they can, and they did a bit of a virtual or digital event. Was that November? I believe that, or October, something like that. And it was it was decent. It was probably as good as you could imagine, but it was still, in my mind, lackluster as far as a replacement for a physical event, because PAXs are cool. I love PAXs. They have a lot of great things going on there, and you get to see all the people that you have not seen for a while normally. It's got all the pieces of a con feel to it, plus good content. So when you're trying to reproduce that online, it's hard. It's hard to bring all of that. So I think this is what ReadPop is talking about, is how they're going to bring this commitment to 2021, and they want to really reinforce a couple different values from how strong their content library is with some of their YouTube channels and just some of the websites that they run, and saying like these are going to be a key part of what we have to offer through all of this, and a great way for us to engage with our community still, and kind of just bringing some awareness, I think, to what ReadPop also does on top of just packs. But they're looking at also meaningful virtual events, which is a really big thing that I think we're going to spend majority of this discussion on, is these virtual events, because this is something that we've seen done very poorly for a long time, because let's be honest, running a physical event in a convention center is fucking expensive, costly. Yes. It's time consuming. We've done some numbers and run some maths on this whole thing. It is a lot of work to run a physical event. So these virtual events have a place, because when you think about that, you're removing a lot of the barriers that are in place to do a physical event. Like literally shipping gear is a crippling cost for events. So what is this meaningful virtual event that they're trying to produce in the first half of the year going to look like? What kind of elements are they going to be bringing to the table? And how is that going to resonate with the audience who is used to going to physical events? And this whole theory that they've also teased is that their events will never sell out now, because there's always a virtual event that's going to be coming along back behind one as well. It's, you know, they've got the right direction, I believe, and it's all about the execution now. So in your mind, what makes a physical event meaningful that you could make a virtual connection with?
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out the idea that events will never sell out again. I believe is what they said in this release or this article that I read, and I kind of scoffed because, well, of course, the physical component of an event always has the potential of selling out, because there's only so many people you can cram inside of a venue, right?
Yep.
So this idea that the event will never sell out, I just kind of laughed, because it's just marketing speak, right? But what it really means is that when the physical event sells out, there will be a digital event for other people to sort of latch onto and get that experience. So it's really hard, because to me, there's so much about an event that you cannot replicate via digital means. You cannot replicate the physical experience of walking through a convention hall and touching things with your physical hands, seeing things with your eyeballs, and hugging your friends, and smelling the con smells, and just being there, right? You cannot replicate that. So to me, it's got to be about exclusive content, or exclusive, I guess, content. I'm gonna hang my hat on exclusive content that only the people that have a digital ticket or a digital whatever get access to. So maybe it's like exclusive trailers, or maybe it's even like exclusive swag that shows up to your house like the week of or the week after an event, right? You got a digital ticket, like here's your digital swag bag, right? It shows up in your inbox or something, I don't know. It's all about those extra perks, right? So until we can like plug ourselves into the matrix and like warp into a digital arena where we can actually all be physically present, I think that all you have to lean on is exclusive content, and figuring out a way to like create connections between people. It's so hard, right? It's so hard to just say, yeah, jump in a Discord server and talk to people. It's just like, it's not the same, right?
No.
Like, on some of it, I don't know. And I think that this is an interesting challenge, right? Is because when physical events come back, it feels like a digital component is going to almost be required now.
Because the world will have been serviced that way. And with these other like virtual and digital solutions that are coming down the line, enhancing those products that they've already listed off, the YouTube channels and all those pieces, that's got to be a part of the strategy here. They're highlighting these things, so this has got to be a primary source of their content. And it feels like what they did before was just bring this to a state where everyone was working on it at the same time and producing some live things at the same time. And that was what they called PAX Online this last year. And that doesn't feel like it will continue to satisfy. So defining that unique content, defining those exclusives, and they mentioned something about merch down here as well, exclusive merch. And that's always a big part of PAX or any show you go to is having that content. Tomorrowland did a pretty good job with trying to produce these exclusive boxes that you would get as a part of your package that you purchased during your viewing window and all that different stuff. So is there going to be something that really draws you in to be a part of this? Because right now it's just flat in my mind.
And for me, maybe I'm like, so it's hard for me sometimes to get out of my own like box, right? I am one person, one individual, one opinion. So maybe this really resonates with other people. But for me, it's just so hard for me to get amped up about an event that is not about sports, right? So when we're talking sports, like, yeah, my team is playing, like I'm in, right? Just let me watch the broadcast and like I am connected, right? But when I think about a PAX or like an E3 or insert any gaming event here, and the biggest draw for me is being there in person. And it's I love walking the floor and I love experiencing expo booths and I love touching and feeling and like being present, right? And I just have yet to find a digital experience that really fills that gap for me. And maybe VR is the thing that we need to really fill that gap in full haptic suits.
I mean, Ready Player One me all the way there, man. Fuck yeah, sign me up. I mean, Ready Player 2, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert,
RP2.
you done some Ready Player 2 yet?
I've not. I'm no.
You got to get on that. So good.
This is an RP2 spoiler-free podcast, so
can't do that then. Okay, okay.
Stop right now.
But those that have know what I'm saying, and that would be so cool. I mean,
so what about you though? Like, so same question. Like, let me just flip it back to you, right? So like, what would potentially would draw you into a digital experience, or like what would like really tick the boxes for you?
There has to be something that I feel like my time is not just going to be wasted doing.
Sure.
Because I can just scroll YouTube whenever. I can like go check out those panels on the VOD if I really wanted to.
And you won't.
Let's be honest. Yep, I won't. Maybe if someone links me right to it, I will for a second, but I'll probably just watch that second.
Or if it's like your friend speaking on the panel, right? You might tune in just to like be like support the homie kind of deal, right? For
yeah.
Sure,
It's got to be like that. It for sure has to be some sort of exclusive content, and if it's like what E3 has done for a long time, and I think this could be something interesting for them still, is they have the announcements if they want to. They have that kind of, they've lost it a little bit, but they have that prestige behind their name that everyone wants to do their announcement by E3. And if you're not a big AAA studio that can afford to do it on your own terms, then E3 is still a good platform for that. And having those kinds of things may draw me back in, but again, I'll go watch the YouTube video or the VOD afterwards when I have the actual time, unless it's something I'm really, really into. Like, you say Sea of Thieves, I'll fucking be there. I'll watch that shit. I'll watch that for sure. But if you're just saying like a swath of games in general, maybe that's not as appealing to me as it sounded like it was in my head to begin with. So the exclusive piece is hard to really define, and for a Comic-Con is that them doing panels still with some of these actors and actresses that have been in some of these films that are relevant and coming out potentially in 2021. Because that's the other question, is like, are we going to have any like unique content that was produced, or has it all been delayed long enough, or enough of it's been spread out to last us 2 years as humankind that need entertainment?
My understanding is that there will be a bit of a lack of content this year because a lot of it did get pushed back so far. So I bet we'll see some stuff, but I have a feeling 2021 is going to be a pretty dry year as far as movies, TV shows are concerned.
Even
not the
games.
volume. even games too, for sure, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? We saw the disaster that was kind of Cyberpunk release and all that. I think that like it's probably a good thing that some industries have been kind of putting the brakes to some degree to kind of slow down a little bit. But I do think there is a content void coming this year, which is weird to say in 2021 in our connected world that we might not have enough new content.
And I think one of the things that PAX specifically will have to lean into to draw the general gamer, at least esports enthusiast out, which is going to be the people that actually come out in more droves than anything else, is going to be those tournaments and those unique moments. Because it really is, it's not just exclusive content, it's unique content.
Yeah.
It's something you can only find there and then. And that's part of why the event physically is always special, because you never know what you're going to get there. Even if you build the entire thing, you never know how it's going to actually turn out. So that unique piece is the slot machine, the lottery, the roulette wheel, that random element that we go and pray to RNGesus to be good. And sometimes it's fantastic and we want to go see it, but what is unique in drawing us to a virtual thing? I don't know. I really have no idea what would suck me in like that.
Yeah, there's one actually example that just popped in my head as you were talking that I want to talk about that I think is really hard to replicate the same experience. At PAX, I forget exactly what it's called, but basically you can opt in, like it's some sort of tournament or competition where people are selected at random to compete. So you basically say like, I want to have a chance to enter the drawing to compete in this tournament at the event, right? So thousands of people, tens of thousands of people say I want to compete, and then like the week of or the week before the event, they email 50 people or whatever and say, all right, congratulations, you've been accepted. And then so you get on site and then you play some games, and eventually it boils up to like there's a finals on a stage and you're competing in front of the PAX arena, right? And you can win some prize, right? But it's all about, I randomly was selected after I entered, and then I got on site and then I competed. I just find something like that just be extremely difficult to replicate at home. Like, yeah, sure, it's fun to compete and play on stream, but it's way different to like go up onto the stage and like try to like compete in a tournament as a pleb, you know, in front of a live audience. You feel the adrenaline and the air and the energy. So something like that, I feel like is really hard to replicate. It's easy to replicate in concept, but it's hard to replicate in like execution.
Yeah. Like, I think you're describing the Omegathon, and
yeah, that's exactly what I'm describing. That's what it is, the Omegathon.
Yeah, like that's a key part of PAX. Like I always check that out every year that I'm there. I always check that out. Check the leaderboard out every time you walk by it. See who's remaining. They've just got gaff tape that's fluorescent that they're Xing people's faces out. Like this is one of those pieces that I think you can create to a certain extent, but there's so much that as an organizer, when you're thinking about organizing stuff online, that just holds you back from really wanting to tap into the maximum potential of these things, which then draws from the actual excitement of the activation you're designing, and that hurts everybody involved because it's lackluster in comparison to what it was, and everyone's disappointed.
Yeah, and I think as I think about 2021 and when we think about events in particular, like how are events gonna kick ass in 21? How are they gonna take it to the next level? I hope that it's a wake-up call. Like I hope we don't just backslide into doing what we did before 2020. I hope it's actually a moment of innovation to some degree. And okay, this is a great example of PAX saying we're always going to have a digital component. Sure, they're not the first people to have a digital component. They won't be the last, but it's nice to see that they've sort of committed to this idea of life is going to be different, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to see what sort of other innovations sort of start to pop up, because my mind is open to being changed here. I know there's a way to do it. Well,
CES is going on right now. Surprise!
Is it? Like, are you sure about that?
Or did it just end?
I don't know.
But there was announcements.
Point, right? I barely even knew it was happening. Right?
There was announcements that came out about CES stuff, and so it was going on-ish, and no one really knew. Yeah, it wrapped up today. It's over now. It's done. CES has come and gone already.
Well, it happened in person last year, right? So
yes.
This is their first. Okay, so this is their first like.
They had a whole year almost.
Okay. Yeah.
So I feel like even they were kind of surprised that they ended up in this position. Like, oh yeah, January will be fine. because everyone did that all the way through the year, every single month. Like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. We're far enough out. 2022 will be fine. Don't even worry about it. So CES lackluster as can be, and they are like the pinnacle of technology showcase, but they're not gaming. So I think this is where gaming has a really unique opportunity to create something that is so us, that can be like a video game experience. That's the closest. That's the coolest thing that I think that we could ever do to draw in our audience, at least. But does that really have an impact? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the big thing that really does it. If you just you make the con game, which there are con simulators out there, and that idea kind of hurts me to even conceptualize doing a show that way. But I think there's ways that it could be done right, and it could be done properly. It just takes the right team to do it, and reimagining how events are run from the ground up. Because this
and also just kind of resetting your expectations or maybe your goals, I think, up front, right? Just having realistic expectations around what you're able to actually to accomplish and do, right? And take baby steps.
Baby steps. That's for sure. Because we can't do it all right away. You can't remove the headphone jack in one go. And 2020 did that to us to a certain degree. So we've tried to band-aid, but I think there's going to be
no headphone jack here. What are you talking about?
Right?
Get out of here.
It took years. I think we're on the right track for having the acceptance for some of these things to be tested in ways that we wouldn't have if actual events were around. Do you think about if you haven't seen your favorite band perform at least in a year now, what would you do to watch them perform? Would you pay to watch a performance that they put out there on a just any paid platform? Would you pay $50 for HBO?
Like a pay-per-view concert or something? I don't know, man. Like maybe maybe I'm just a fuddy-duddy. I don't know, but to me, it needs to be something more than just a DJ set or a concert, right? I need a behind-the-scenes one-on-one interview with the lead guitarist where he's talking about his life and like how I need something like that, right? I don't want to just watch fucking Trivium play again, or like Armin van Buuren do the Jesus pose in front of a crowd. Like I want to go behind the curtains, and I want something that's not just the music in this context, because I don't know, man. There's YouTube, there's Spotify, there's Twitch. There's so much music out there. Like I've heard your songs 1,000 times, but what I don't know is like your backstory, like where you came from. What was your first gig? What was that funny story about your first tour and that time that you spilled the drink on the mixer and you killed the power for the entire set? Like I think something like that, if it was like a concert coupled with something, a documentary, a period piece, an interview, or something, then okay, now I'm in. But I don't know. What about you? What do you think of that?
I think we are both a little bit more nerdy in our understanding and desire to know more about the backside of things than most people know. So I'm not sure that everybody would want that, but personally, I would enjoy those kinds of things a lot, and those kinds of extras would be super cool, like that the one-on-one sit down with the artist before they perform or after they perform, or just something like that leading up to it to build that hype around it is very helpful. So having a package deal where you can say like, I want that next level would be pretty cool. Being able to request some of that extra content and say to a company, yeah, when you do put on this concert, I can't buy merch, but I'm still willing to commit a little bit more to this experience.
Oh, I would like to make sure I can buy the merch, by the way. If I can't buy the tour t-shirt or whatever and have it drop shipped to my house, then I don't even know what we're doing. So, give me that merch.
And I guess it's not so much about not being able to buy merch, but it's more about packaging everything together in a way that is easy for people to consume. And I think that's really, as you look at what packs could potentially offer, that exclusive merch, those virtual events. I think of BlizzCon with what they did with the Blizzard Pass, and being able to cover all of this cool live coverage in only a way that you got as one of the Blizzard Pass holders, and for BlizzCon. So doing that kind of unique content, I think, would be really cool around just about any sort of event that you could do. And most of the time you are documenting those things, you are grabbing that content, you are paying someone to be there watching. So being able to ramp that up as an organizer doesn't seem like it would be too difficult. Just being able to turn it around or have something pre-canned that goes along with your tour stop or date, is I think that'll start to become a little bit more of the problem, is that you're going to want to put a cap on these things artificially, because if there's no cap to it, anyone can just go and attend, and that loses half of the exclusivity that you felt being at one of these shows, because you got a ticket. You are there. All those other poor souls that didn't get one, neener, suck it. That's half of the joy of going and being in that spot and paying the price to leave the comfort of your home and be out in public sometimes, because it's worth it.
I just don't know how you recreate that what you just said in a digital event. I just don't know how you do it. There's just so many other things that capture my attention. Like, I may have not having a hard time just staring at my webcam right now, just talking to you. It's like I'm looking over here, like, oh my god, there's a car, I just heard a fire truck go by, like, you know what I mean? Oh, I dropped my pen, like, you know what I mean? So it's like it's the allure of going to an event, being in the convention center. Your focus, your attention is focused, right? I'm in the event. I am in it. I am one with the event. This is me. This is what I'm doing, right? Whereas I'm sitting at home, I'm like, yeah, I'm watching the exclusive live stream, but I'm getting a Discord message, we're sending tweets, and blah, 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 blah. The content's going on over here. I'm not even paying attention. Oh, what was that? Sea of Thieves? Oh no, that's whatever. Right? So it's like that's I don't know, and I'm really excited to see what happens this year, because at the very least, all these event organizers, yourself included, and myself included in some ways as well, have had like a full calendar year, like planning and thinking, like, okay, how are we going to do this? What are the new things that are coming out? What are the new things we're going to try? And I'm excited to see what those new things are, because it's got to be better than just here's a live stream and some exclusive content. There's got to be some cool stuff coming out that I don't know about.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're going to be right here on the beginning of this year with nothing for the next couple months, is the feeling that I'm getting. Everyone's like, yeah, sometime in the first half of the year. So June is what that equates out to, as late as we can say first half of the year. Like July counts, right?
Yeah, I'm not planning on Q1 or Q2 events at all. I think Q3 is the earliest you see something. That's just my like finger in the air gut feeling kind of deal. At least in America, maybe Europe is or is not different, or I don't know. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be pretty consistent across the board, that the temperature is going to stay consistent, and there's not going to be a lenience anywhere other than places that are like New Zealand and Australia that are kind of the safest right now. So I think they may see life as normal start to get back to it. But when you're talking about international audiences, local health and normality does not bode well with the larger global situation. Yeah. So it'll stay pretty consistent with...
You also don't just whip up a PAX Australia in like 2 months though either, right?
No.
So that's the other thing, is even, okay, sure, Australia and New Zealand, they're cool to have events. It's like, well, these events have really, really long lead times. And also, by the way, you need a bunch of other companies to come in and bring all their shit into the event to make it cool. So it's tricky. It's challenging.
Yep. Too many big moving pieces to do it properly right now. No events, I think, for the first at least 6 months of this year. Physically, man, I hope we get back to them this year. It would be very sad to see a whole nother year of Disneyland being closed.
Apparently, they're turning Disneyland into a COVID vaccination site. I was informed of today, which I think is pretty smart. Actually.
Very smart. You think about some of the places where large congregating groups can be held easily. They could even put them in fucking line. Go get in line for Space Mountain. You're getting COVID shots as you get into the go ride the ride. Everyone gets their own car and a nurse. Here we go.
It's not. Oh, how funny would that be if the park was actually running while they were doing this? Like, here's your shot, boom, all right, Magic Mountain's ready for you. Get on over there. It's like, okay, cool.
Oh man.
I feel dizzy. Woo.
Yep. I mean, maybe not the rides running, but at least something of like they have the infrastructure in place to handle tens of thousands of people better than even stadiums can, because it doesn't have to be crowded. They could even funnel them into different sides and keep people socially distanced.
Yeah, just say traffic flow and just routing people, right? There's so much. They're masters of that. Yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense, and I'm stoked that they're doing that. I mean, Disneyland needs it to get better just as much as anyone else does, because their business is pretty crippled right now too. So
yeah, tough times call for drastic and sometimes crazy measures, but these are the things that will be the testament to the commitment to even companies like Disney making this go away or fix it to the point where we can feel safe again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna happen this year, right? I think we're getting back into the world where we're gonna solve this thing. We're gonna get over it. It's not gonna go away, right? But I have to think that 2021, we turned the corner. We can't do 2020 again. I don't think anybody wants to do that, but
no.
I guess we'll see.
No,
right?
my girlfriend
control too.
could not handle that much facial hair for another year.
I don't know what you're talking about. I had no facial hair last year. I was clean shaven the entire year. I miss my beard.
Oh no, beard, come back.
Ay.
I think we digress all the way to this point of the end. We've made it, Mitch.
I think
even a couple minutes.
I think we made it.
We made up for those few minutes.
I'm excited that we made it. I'm excited that we're here for another year. I'm excited to be talking with you once a week for the next however long.
Foreseeable future.
Foreseeable future, yes.
Yeah. The background may change depending on how the year goes, because normally I would travel a lot, and that would require us to be talking a little more remotely in weird spots sometimes. So we'll see how that all goes.
Can you imagine how cool it would be to do the show like live from wherever we happen to be?
I mean, Thursday nights, there's usually some good things going on Thursday nights right before the calm before the storm, or the storm going before the big storm. So
just doing the show from the floor build out, it's just like, what's that noise? Oh yeah, somebody's fucking hammering the stage back there.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah.
But
right, you wanna get us out of here?
I do look forward to another year of this. It's gonna be good. But thank you all for watching. This is Next Level Theory Crafting with Salty and Kyle, aka Mitch and Real Gizmo. And we will be back next week at 6 on Thursdays. And thank you again to the sponsors, ShotCall.gg, Evermedia, and Blue Microphones for making your voices sound wonderful. Mitch is on the way. We'll see you guys all next week.
Bye.
Bye.